Let's talk about when a buyer is thinking about buying new construction. Let's break down pros and cons.
Okay.
You start.
Well, obviously the very first one would be that it's all new. You get all new stuff, you get all new appliances, very clean, and nobody's ever lived in it. That's the big draw that most people have to those. And of course, with that also comes a lot of the warranties. So you get, the real warranties on the HVAC system, on the roof, certain warranties by the builder for usually a year, sometimes 2 extended, and then appliances such as the HVAC, sometimes the roof, the foundation has a 10-year warranty. Those are the things that a new home would come with that resales just won't have.
Okay, very important there to pay attention on the type of warranties because each builder is different. They have 1 year, 3 year, or 5 year. All right, I'm gonna go with a con. Construction. You need to take in consideration that you are gonna be around construction for a while. So a lot of traffic, big trucks, depending on the phase of that development. But it normally takes a few years for everybody to clear out of there.
Yes, a very good point. And one thing we always try to warn people is just to be mindful. We've gotten many flat tires ourselves going in and out of those things. So, that new construction, it's not just perhaps the noise, but you do have to be careful because those streets are just filled with nails and debris and such. And to that same point, when you have the new construction going on for several years after you, and this all depends on the size of the community. But if you're coming in early, especially, you're going to have that builder there for a long time. It's going to take longer to build your equity. Not per se that it's going to be at a slower rate. It's just that you're constantly going to be competing with that builder. And that builder has the luxury of being able to lower their prices whenever they want or need. And when an economy gets rough, this is not a house for them. This has no emotion to them. It's a product, and they will slash that price to whatever they need to do to get it down. Now, sometimes that's in the mode of incentives. It's not necessarily a price.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, incentives. That's another good on the pro of buying new construction. Builders throw incentives like they give washer and dryer, or they give you this irrigation system. Things that normally don't come with the base, blinds, garage door opener, alarm system, all the new techie things. Mm-hmm. They are giving it away to incentivize you to buy. I mean, it's not money to you, but it's actually giving you more value for your house.
Right. Mm-hmm. And they do often also give actual money, not necessarily off the price again, but as a credit to perhaps help you with your closing costs. Maybe depending on where rates are at that time, they can use that money to buy down your rate. So again, it's a discount in a way because it is saving you money or giving you something for free without touching the price. And they do this a lot. They will do that to protect their own values and the value of the neighborhood. But at a certain point, they still have that luxury of saying, okay, well, what I was selling at let's say 500. If I need to now, I'm going to sell that same house for 475 because I just need to get this off my books and move on. Yeah. So you need to be aware of that, as you're moving along, especially the earlier you are in a new community. Now, as things grow and now home doing well, and now the builders are selling at a much higher price, you'll always have that luxury of being able to undercut them a little bit. And in some cases, once you customize a home to yourself, like with some of the things that builders don't offer, it depends on what type of community you're in. But if you've gone in and you've maybe added the blinds, as you mentioned, some will add, but yours is more custom, or you've put in flooring that they didn't offer, or you've got some sort of systems in the house that the builder doesn't even offer. Your trees have grown up more. That's part of being
have a pergola, have a patio decked out.
You've added on to it or something like that. That's going to put you ahead of what the builders just won't be able to offer. So you have that going for you, but you just need to be aware. The earlier in you are, it might be a benefit, and that you're getting in at baseline prices. Just be aware that when it comes time to sell, whether good or bad, you're probably going to have to come in a little below the builder.
Yeah, and going in early, one of the other advantages is that, disadvantages, the construction, but advantages is what you mentioned. And another thing to take in consideration is the time that you have to live in the house. When you buy a new construction, I know life happens and plans changes, but you need to plan to at least be in that new home for 5 to 7 years, if more. So you give enough time for the builder to finish the project, and then you don't have to compete with it.
Right, and we talk to our clients a lot about that. You know, whether you're buying new or anything else, our usual baseline, if without other circumstances, is 3 years. I mean, that's just kind of, if you're not going to be in this house, you believe you're going to be in this house, or at least keep it. You can always rent it out, but you're not going to sell it for at least 3 years. Then it may not be the right time for you to be buying, because you're going to get eaten up on closing costs on either side. You don't know what the market's going to do. It's just a little bit more risky. Probably renting might be a little bit better option for you. But yeah, new construction, we might extend that out just a little bit more, just because you will be competing with that builder.
All right, another con that I can think of is distance to downtown. Normally, all these new communities are far from downtown. We had a client who bought during the pandemic years when everybody was working from home, out like far from central Austin. And now that everybody is back, it just like backfire, and then now it's deciding, okay,
Traffic.
selling that and buying new. So distance to downtown, it's always important to know how much distance is from work. You might not be working downtown, but you always have to take in consideration that those communities are far out from anything else.
Right, and that's just the way things generally go in any city. You know, it just kind of bleeds out from the core, and the closer you in most cases is the more expensive it becomes. And there's other types of new construction. Occasionally you'll find new pockets that are fairly close. You know, that you're going to pay for it, but there are those options. And then there's infills, which is not really a part of the topic that we're talking about right now, but that's when somebody might go in and tear down an existing house in a really popular neighborhood and build new. So that is new construction. Sometimes it's even, what's the word I'm looking for? Product homes, or, you know, spec homes. Thank you. A Dries, and nothing wrong with any of these, a Dries or a David Weekley or something who builds in these communities, but they're also now coming out and they're tearing down infill and building those products in town. So in some cases you'll have some of those same builders, but you may not have all the same incentives and some of these pros and cons that we're talking about.
Exactly. The ones that we're talking about are for those like big producers, Ashton Woods,
New subdivisions.
Meritage Home, new. They pretty much are taking new land and building several floor plans and creating it.
Right. And to that point, when you're on new land, most of them, especially, again, there's different price points, you know, and the different topographies that you're going to be dealing with. But most of those builders, it's economical. They're going to go into that section of how many acres, and they're going to pretty much eliminate everything. They're not saving trees. Some of your nicer areas that have bigger lots that have certain trees, oaks, in certain spots that they can salvage, they will. You know, you usually pay a little premium for that lot that might have a nice tree on it. But most of them are going to come in and clears the majority of it. And so that's one thing that comes with new communities. It's, you know, not necessarily a bad thing, but one of the things other than proximity that people like about these closer in neighborhoods is the growth of the trees, the feeling that it gets.
More established feeling.
A little bit more established and a little bit more ambiance to it. And, you know, you're going to get that kind of 2 new trees planted out in the front look for however many years it takes.
One more thing I wanted to add when you're talking about like starting all these new neighborhoods, there are some fees that people need to take in consideration when, just like the HOA, they call PID and MODs. So there are extra fees that they're going to charge you because these developments, these 4 or 5 constructions are going to develop everything, including utilities. So these PID and MODs are part of that development that the homeowners are going to pay for the duration of X amount. Sometimes it's 15 years, sometimes it's 20, sometimes it's 50.
Right.
But there are fees that people don't think of when they first see their monthly from the lender.
Right, and those will show up, almost all of them will show up in the tax. So when you looking at a tax rate, assuming you're getting the correct one, that tax rate should include those. However, it usually reflects in you having a slightly higher tax than something maybe more in town that doesn't have those. And you're right, they are scheduled to be 20, 30, whatever the years may be, but they can stay longer. It just depends on how long it takes to get it all kind of paid back. And new things may come up. So those can fluctuate just like your tax rate can. And the HOAs is another thing about it in general. You know, some people are great with it. Some people don't really love having it. but there's generally a lot more restrictions that come into play in a newer community as far as where can you park your cars, when can the trash cans be out and when can they not, are you allowed to park on the street or not, have you watered your lawn today, has it been mowed, all that kind of stuff. And some people get a little annoyed with some of that, but it is designed, of course, to keep the neighborhood in good shape as well. So.
And it's going to help you at the time of resale.
It for sure will. Yeah, keeps all the neighbors in the same line. Another, we kind of touched on it, but being new, these homes are generally more energy efficient. That's the latest. You're the newest of code. So when we go to a resale, we get an inspection done. There's all kinds of things that show up on an inspection report that aren't necessarily a problem. They're just not today's code, because code changes pretty much every year. Something changes every single year. So in these new homes, you're obviously getting the latest and the most updated to code. So everything should be mostly energy efficient. But to that point as well, we always, of course, recommend that people still get those inspections done, even on new construction, because inevitably you're going to find that there's some things that, not usually anything too major, but a corner cut here, there, or something missed that inspector will catch and make sure that that gets corrected by the builder before you close.
And when you do the inspection in a new construction, it's very important to talk to the inspector and coordinate a 2-for-1 type of inspection, because normally these first warranties, the first year warranty is bumper to bumper, like they can fix most of the things that you pretty much didn't damage because you moved sofas around or during moving time. But some of our clients do the inspection prior to closing, but then they do another inspection 9 months into it before that year comes, so they can see, once they live in it, all the settlements, you really leave the house and know what's wrong with it or what are the weird things. And so the inspector comes back, gives you a full inspection, and you pretty much just send it to the builder, and it's like, okay, before my 1 year expires, my 1 year warranty expires, here is all the things I want you to do.
Right, and it's great, and most builders are very good about that. We can't expect perfection for every little thing, because a lot of those things aren't them, it was user.
Yes.
But yeah, that's a great way to make sure that, hey, my inspection's running up, or my warranty is running up, let me check all these things and see if there's something that could be fixed with a better eye. And there's also the opportunity, if people want, depending on what stage of new construction you get into. Some people are going to go out and they're going to find a spec home that is either done completely and ready to move in once you close, or really close. So you're not going to be able to really customize it or make many changes. But there's others that are going to start as early as they're going to pick out their lot. They're going to pick out their floor plan. They're going to pick out the orientation. They're going to pick out a bunch of their options, and then it will get started. And if you're in that early, you'll also have the opportunity, if chosen, to do a slab inspection and a pre-sheetrock inspection. And that one especially, we encourage it. I always encourage my clients to go out right before that with their builder anyway. It's a great time when you're going to get your last chance to see this house naked with no walls up. So the important part of that is you get to see not only if there's any maybe issues in there, but I encourage people to take photos of as much of that big, like the plumbing areas, the wiring areas. So you've got a record somewhere. It could be as small as, hey, I want to put a painting up here in the entryway, and it's pretty big. I'm going to need a heavy duty thing here. And you want to know what's behind there. You don't want to put a hole in a piece of pipe and, ruin your whole month. So it's good to kind of have an idea, or if you're going to go make some changes much later on, you might be adding on, you might be deciding to put in some new system of some sort, and you'll know exactly where everything is and where to go about it.
Yeah, that's the difference between like a full custom home. You normally start from the land, then a spec or inventory home, which normally sometimes those are better prices because they already pick everything for you and they want to get it off their books.
Right.
So inventory homes normally come with better incentives, but some people have the time and the patient and the extra money for do the upgrades, and they want to go from the beginning.
Yes.
Those can range, depending on the builder, from 9 months to a year.
Yes.
If you start from scratch.
If you start from scratch, yes. There's some builders, I think, that can still pull off that 6 months. It depends on how far the development has gone along too, but if they can get in, it's largely about the permitting part of it for your specific lot. If you're picking all of that, they have to kind of permit for that house, that specific home. But once the permits are cleared and they go out and they start the forming, which is your first sign of, okay, they're going to start here. They're going to form to pour the slab. From there, most are probably, depending on the size of the home and such, anywhere from as little as 4, I would usually say 5, to, like you said, if it's a bigger, more custom type home, you could be looking still at a year from there. Just depending on the size of it. So that is one of the other things about it, just depending on what stage, timeline, for people that are coming out and they're saying, hey, I need to find a home, I need to get a contract, I need to close, and I need to be able to move into that thing sometime, at least within 2, 3, 4 weeks of that. New construction may not even end up being an option because of the timelines. The other thing that I think it's important to note is that when you're out looking, if a consumer is out looking at pricing and they see this subdivision and they say, oh, this floor plan is X square feet, that's about what I need. And it says, usually it says starting in the whatever, or it might even have a specific price. And sometimes it's a range of maybe 10, 20,000 or 5% or something like that. And that usually depends on because of the options as far as the construction goes. Some might have an option to make this thing into an extra bedroom, bust out an attic space and make a bedroom or something like that, which would adjust
elevation,
different front elevation, those kinds of things. But what's important to understand is that those, again, are the base prices. What you're probably going to end up having in most communities, there's going to be some sort of a lot fee, not all, but some, especially if you're going to end up wanting to be on a corner or in a cul-de-sac or that backs up to a green belt, something like that. You'll have a lot fee tied to that. And then all of your upgrades. And again, some of these builders will be offering incentives where you might get a budget to say you can have this much at no cost. Beyond that, you're going to be paying. And that price some communities can jump pretty dramatically. So it's good to be aware of. And in most of those cases, if you're going to go over the allotted amount, usually you're looking at paying 50% of whatever you go over. So if you added an extra $50,000 in upgrades, you're going to need to put that extra $25,000 down up front.
Everything else goes to your closing. It rolls over, but most of the roll over into your mortgage. But most builders ask you a specific amount of the upgrades that you ask.
And you can actually still roll it in. It's just they're going to want that money up front because if you back out for some reason, they've built this home for you. It may not sell as well to somebody else, and they're going to keep those funds.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to add anything else?
That was all that was on my list, I think.
Well, I think the point here is, the main point is that every case is different. New construction might work for you, might not work for somebody else. It just depends on your goals and your exit strategy and all the plans that you want and how specific you want your home to be. Right. But if you have any other questions about how to buy a new home, just reach out.
Yeah.